Hello, I'm Dan Weedin. Welcome to Unleashed with Dan Weedin, season one of our vidcast. And I can't think of a better way to end the first of this five-series season than with my good friend, Alanna Imbach. Alanna is going to be talking to us about the future of work. Alanna will be with you just in a second. Just a reminder to everybody that we have five great episodes in this season. The next one will come out in about 6 months, so we'll be doing 2 seasons a year. I think that's how they got all of the reality shows to have like 70 seasons in such a quick time that we're just going to accelerate that. But speaking of accelerating, our acceleration of the workforce and how we work is happening right as we're watching it. And Alanna Imbach, first of all, Alanna, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I got to know Alanna many years ago. In fact, she proposed to me an idea that eventually turned into what she and her husband Marcel own as Vibe Coworks. This was several years ago. I didn't even know what co-working was. Now I think everybody knows what it is. But we're going to talk about how things are changing, especially here as we do this in June of 2020, what this might mean based on what we've been going through. So Alanna, I want you to do me a favor for those people who might be watching and don't know exactly what co-working is. Can you give a definition of what co-working is and how it's growing?
Yeah, it's funny when I talk about Vibe Coworks, I always describe it as being a shared workspace and co-working community. So I describe it that way because I do think co-working, the common definition is it's shared workspace. So it's a landing spot that everyone can come into and find a desk, find a phone booth, find a conference room. And it is all of those things. But I think the real strength of what co-working spaces are is found in the community of people that then combines with kind of that real estate piece.
And at least in Vibe, the community of people is very diverse
Mm-hmm.
in industry, in whether they're entrepreneurs or employees of somebody else, in age and gender, and that's one of the cool things about Vibe and many other co-working facilities, not only around this nation but around the world, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. In some ways, it's almost a, professional super collider. It functions. I often tell people it's like a gym membership for your business. So you're not tied into anything long term. It's all either hourly or month to month. And it lets you share space and, rub elbows and exchange ideas with people that are in all types and shapes of industries and at all points of their career, which is also really important.
And you came across it because when you and Marcel were working in New York, you had an opportunity in with your employer to be in a co-working facility. And so when the idea of maybe coming back to the Pacific Northwest came,
Mm-hmm.
you thought about this.
Yeah, opportunity from my employer is putting it mildly. I always laugh that I'm the ultimate convert because I was forced into co-working by my employer. I thought it was a terrible idea. I thought it was going to break up the team dynamics and I didn't want to carry all my stuff. And I was a firm believer in, our company office space. And when I was finally pushed into it, I found so many advantages to, like we were saying, being in a room that's mixed with professionals from other industries and backgrounds and expertise. And so much so that I'll never go back to a traditional office. And when we decided to make the move out here, coming from New York, there's a co-working space on every corner.
Yeah.
And coming out here at the time, there was one co-working space that had been open for a number of years and one that was just opening. So we felt like there was a lot of kind of room to create the type of co-working community that we ourselves was looking for.
And today, I know just in the county we're in, there's so many more, aren't there?
Yep. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I always kind of lose track. I think there's 8 or 9, depending whether you include Jefferson County. So there's lots of options here in Kitsap now.
So here's my question. I know, well, I'll start by saying I know during the current phase as we stand today, you haven't been able to be open to your members to be able to come in physically into the office. Is that correct?
That is incorrect. We are
Oh,
open.
okay. Oh, you are.
We're not staffed and our doors are locked full time.
Ah,
But the way that we work, even in non-COVID times, our members have 24/7 access keys to the space. So we actually did a survey right as things were starting to shut down, firstly to ask how many of our members own, work for, or are employed by a formally classified essential business. And just over 30%, it was like 31.9%, were essential businesses. So, as it fell through, we were actually classified as critical infrastructure, and
and
we were able to keep some of those companies running, including several that work in food security. So those
great.
needed to come into this space have been able to do so, and we've been encouraging anyone who doesn't need to stay home.
Well, perfect. That is great. I'm glad to know that. I'm glad I stand corrected. And what I think we're seeing through all of this is that with all of the companies who have had to go virtual, they've had to send their employees to their homes to start working. While many of them will go back to a traditional office situation, this has, I think, brought to the attention to a lot of business owners. Hey, we're, it's kind of, you said, we can still be dynamic. We can still get a lot of things done. We can still do things face to face, but we may not need somebody to come such a distance, maybe, or
Mhm.
we might be able to hire somebody who works across the country and still be able to do that. Has this pandemic accelerated what we've already started seeing with the whole concept around co-working?
Yes. Definitive yes.
I think I
I
knew
was
the
looking
answer to that,
I
but explain.
Yeah, no, I was reading something the other day that was saying, for so long these last years, as people have been talking about commercial real estate and office spaces in particular, they've always described co-working and flex workspace as like X single digit percentage of the entirety of that sector. And what I was reading, they're basically making the argument of like, this will be the sector now. Like all office space is going to become flex workspace as a result of this. And we're seeing, even companies that were strict non-remote work companies have been forced into it now. And time again, they're finding that actually it's highly effective. It can be done. Their teams can manage it. They're not losing productivity. So they're rethinking, overhead costs. Why are we paying
Right.
for this gigantic office space if we could instead pay a monthly membership to a space only when we need it? We're seeing a lot of, I don't know if you've seen it these last few weeks, the word de-densification has been spinning around a lot, and companies
That's
basically
hard to say. Say that again. It's what?
de-densification.
Okay.
So, um, companies looking at how do we reduce the number of people in our office at any given time? How do we reduce the number of people trying to get into an elevator in a building at any given time or getting onto public transportation? And that's partly in order to be able to maintain the 6 foot rules. But part of it is increasingly also security. So, before I have my entire, say, 200-person team in this one office space, somebody gets, test positive for coronavirus, and suddenly I could lose my whole 200-person team and my whole office, my whole business goes down. Whereas if I have de-densified and I've got
Yep.
team A, B, C, D, and E all spread out, at most I might lose team A, for a
Right.
time. But
Well,
I still have some consistency with the rest of my
yeah,
team.
and Elaine,
Oh,
it doesn't even have to be coronavirus. It could be the flu
it could
because
be
yeah,
anything.
I mean, it could be anything else that spreads. And we know that a lot of times, even back to school and then into that winter time, the flu and other types of things happen. So what you're doing is you're talking my language. You're spreading the risk.
Exactly.
You've minimized it by spreading that risk. So all of those things really bode well when you're talking from an employer standpoint. You really have a lot of advantages from the employee standpoint of why it's in their best interest, perhaps, in addition to distance, but why it might be in their best interest to be part of a co-working community. Can you talk about that?
Where to start? I think for a lot of, a lot of the folks that have been with us here over these last weeks, the number one thing is commute time. I get, in a lot of cases, 3 to 4 hours each day of my life back, that I can spend with my family or pursue hobbies or, commit to my work. So that reduced commute time is a big one for those that are normally commuting. There's a major, I have to pull it back up again, but we included in the survey that we did at the beginning of the shutdown, we asked people, do you feel happier? Do you feel more productive? Do you feel healthier? What is it that these co-working spaces mean to you? And it was a definitive yes on all of those things, that people, when they're able to choose their own schedules, when they feel like they're trusted in the flexibility that they have, when they're able to bounce ideas and not be isolated at home, they're much happier working in co-working spaces.
Talk a little bit about then that community of the diversity of people. So you might be employed by somebody out of New York, right?
Yeah.
You might be working from here as an employee, yet you get to see entrepreneurs who
Mm-hmm.
are solo practitioners, solopreneurs who are working there. You might run into other small business owners who are working from there, or other employees. That range of knowledge and skills and networking has a positive effect as well.
Hugely. And often we find people fall into more than one of those categories.
Right.
So even of the folks we've had here, a number of them had Vibe memberships before, but they had it for a personal side hustle they were working on. And the rest of the time they were commuting into an office somewhere for work. And now they're here for the day job as well. And we, in addition to, we have a lot of kind of social things as well, to like, what you miss when you're in an office is, the birthday celebrations and just the kind of.
And that's actually exactly where I was going to go. I want you to expand on that, because you do celebrate. I'm a member of Vibe as well, even though I work from home, and you give a chance to participate in a lot of social, even during this time. I know you've worked very hard at doing that. The social aspect that can be missed. Talk about how co-working facilities are changing that mindset as well.
Yeah, I think, last year I think was the first time we did a year-end holiday potluck. We thought super simple thing, it's like every office does this. At the end of the year, you have a holiday potluck. And we had people came back and they said, you have no idea how much that meant to me. I've been working remotely for years, and it's been 12 years since I've had a company holiday party.
Wow.
So something as simple as like, bring your favorite kind of chili and we'll gather around the table together has a lot of meaning for people. And, during the stay home order, we've shifted all of our events and programming online. So we have, anything from a morning coffee connect to a virtual happy hour to more work specific things like work sprints. But one of the traditions we've had here for 2 years is that on the third Wednesday of every month, we have what's called Waffle Wednesdays. And in the morning for an hour, we break out the waffle irons and anybody that comes in gets a waffle.
Yeah.
And last month on our internal Slack, somebody wrote like, oh, the stay home thing is so sad. I just got a calendar reminder for Waffle Wednesdays. I miss that so much. And then this whole trail kind of ensued of everyone of, oh, I miss my waffles too. Me too. Me too. So we kind of sat down for a minute and said, well, why don't we deliver waffles? So we made here in the kitchen, we made 84 waffles, and we had a delivery team of 3 that went out on Wednesday morning to deliver everyone's waffles and syrup to their house. And there was something, there was a definite morale boost and
Yeah.
something really uniting of being like, all right, we're all here in our home offices and, all the struggles that everyone's juggling with right now with, family and home and work and learning. And yet we can all share a waffle still. And that's something you just don't find in traditional offices.
So let me ask you this: you guys are unique in that in Bill, that was part of your vision in doing this. I can't believe, especially some of the large corporate co-workers, I can't believe that everybody takes that type of community mindedness. Is that something that you see growing in co-working facilities? And should that be something that someone who is considering a co-working facility use in the basis of their decision?
I think I often tell people, co-working spaces are like restaurants. In essence, they all do the same thing. They all serve food. But each of them has a little different environment, little bit different menu, little bit different clientele, and you go to the one that you like best. And I think we are unique in that the sense of community here, people often tell us, is unlike anything they've ever experienced at other co-working spaces. Some co-working spaces are complete plug and play. You don't talk to anybody, you remote
Yeah.
in and then you sit down and do your thing and you're gone. Others like us have very strong kind of social communities. So it's a matter of finding which one you click best with. Um, we did kind of, because we're interested also like beyond the socialness of it, like what helps you move your business forward. And so included in the poll we did, we asked people, how often have you referred another Vibe member? How often have you partnered with another Vibe member? How often have you hired another Vibe member? And over 50% had referred another Vibe member. Over 36% had partnered with, and over 13% had hired.
Yeah.
So especially, that's been, I think, a strength and asset to co-working spaces from day one. But especially as we're looking at kind of COVID recovery and like, how do you get your business off the ground again and moving forward again? Those networks are really important. So finding a co-working space where you have both the social community and the professional community that helps you is essential.
So in the last 4 or 5 minutes that we have, I now want you to put your pull your crystal ball out, because we want to talk about the future of work. The future of work was clearly changing anyway. And as you mentioned, and I agree wholeheartedly, this is accelerating how employers, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or whether you are a small business, it's changed everything and accelerated it. How do you see, even let's just use the next 5 to 10 years, maybe the next decade, the 20s, how do you see things playing out with how people will be working in our country?
I think you're looking at co-working. I think
Yeah.
people are going to be choosing to work closer to home. I think you're going to see a big shift in kind of suburban and more rural areas where they were, commuter cities. I think people are going to be able to do the work that they love from the place that they love.
Right.
And that's going to be supported by employers. I think you're going to see, in the same way that employers have increasingly paid, transportation pass for a lot of their employees.
Right.
I think you're going to see employees covering the co-working memberships for a lot of their employees as a benefit or perk. And I think for those who are not employees, for those who are entrepreneurs and own their own businesses, the flexibility that co-working offers in terms of, not being tied into a long-term lease. You might be a one-person, two-person team, but then having the collective, professional and social support of a much wider community, you can't put a price on that. And you don't have to mess with, you walk in here, you get a membership, and you don't have to worry about any of your utilities, any of your furniture. It's here. You're set up and ready to go we're on fiber internet, which around here is a really, really big deal for a lot of companies being able to be successful in this area.
Right. So to end off, I want you to, obviously could be watched by people any place, but I want you to talk a little bit more about Vibe Coworks. Not in addition to having members that work there, you also have conference space. You have a new location in Bremerton. I want you to share a little bit about, so kind of wrap up a little bit more outside of being someone who might have an office or a space as a member. What are some of the other cool things that your co-working facility offers?
Yeah, so we have 2 locations now. We opened the one in the midst of the shutdown.
Yes, you did.
Our Paulsbo location is the largest, and we've got 3 conference rooms of different sizes here that are all rentable by the hour. So obviously right now, it's probably not recommendable to have a large group or team in here. But you can rent a room and have that be essentially your private office for the day if that's what you need. Or we've had some people that set it up and they might organize to have all of their client meetings in one day, and they essentially use that as their office and sanitize it between each person coming in. So those hourly options are really handy. In Bremerton, our new location is called The Spot, and that place is really cool. It's kind of the ultimate quarantine location of sorts. It was designed and intended to be an offsite retreat space for teams, but very much with the idea that you were completely tuned out and away from everyone. So it's unstaffed. It's remote keyless entry, that you are the only one that has the key for the time that you've booked it on your mobile phone. And you have everything you need in that room, and it's clean before and after each use, and then you log out when your booking time is up and you're out. So right now we've actually, because we anticipate that, you know, most companies are not going to be bringing in full teams, we've actually reduced that pricing through the end of the summer to make it usable also for individuals that might not be ready to come into a shared work environment like we have here in Paulsbo. But you can book online or through your phone and use the space for the day and know that it's completely clean.
Well, I can see something like this, the Spot also becoming something that accelerates, is that ability to keyless entry, go in, do our thing. We don't see anybody else. We do whatever it is we're doing, and then they're off. So, well, listen, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on my first season of Unleashed with Dan Weedin. I'm so happy to have you here. And it's a really great wrap up to what we've been talking about this season for both employers and employees. As we go out, I'm going to have it obviously where people can find it, but how would people get a hold of you to get more information about Vibe Coworks?
You can go to vibecoworks.com. You can also go to vibe-spaces.com.
All right. Well, Alanna, thank you very much. And to all of you, that wraps up season 1. I hope you've enjoyed this. We'll have season 2 coming back out in December. Until then, please be well and, of course, be unleashed.